Okay, chapter 15. The merit and virtue gained from upholding this sutra. Subhuti. A good man or good woman might in the morning give away as many bodies as there are grains of sand in the Ganges river, and again at noon give away as many bodies as there are grains of sand in the Ganges river, and again in the evening give away as many bodies as there are grains of sand in the Ganges river, giving away bodies like that through immeasurable hundreds of thousands of billions of kalpas. But if someone else were to hear this sutra and believe it without reservation, his blessings would surpass the blessings of the former person. How much greater the blessings would be if one could write out, accept, uphold, read, recite, and explain this sutra for others. Subhuti, to sum it up, the merit and virtue of this sutra is inconceivable, incalculable, and boundless. And boundless. So, if you remember from last time, in the last chapters, the Buddha, because Subhuti still had, if you remember, Subhuti was getting it. Subhuti was getting there. Subhuti was getting to the middle way. But he was still having this subtle kind of clinging that Buddha means the experience of non-appearance, or the realization of non-appearance. So the Buddha gives him a slight nudge, the Buddha gives him a slight correction, and says, well, yes, the Buddha has no perception of self, others, living beings, and so on. And then the Buddha goes on with a speech about his past life and about the importance of forbearance, of patience. And the Buddha tells Subhuti that at the time when the king of Kalinga cut his body, the Buddha had not an appearance of the body and not a non-appearance of. So the Buddha had did not have an appearance of being cut, but also did not have a non-appearance of being cut. And that was the great patience. That was the great forbearance. So the Buddha then just drifts out. So the Buddha all of a sudden starts to talk about the other paramitas. For the first time in this sutra, the Buddha starts to talk about the other paramitas. Why? Why? Because Subhuti is still clinging to emptiness. Subhuti is still clinging to emptiness as the goal. And as we saw in the last time, the Buddha explained, emptiness is not the goal. Emptiness is the means. Emptiness is the means to which to transcend both extremes. Both extremes must be transcended. Clinging to emptiness is non-appearance. It's the view of the Arhat. Clinging to appearance, that's common view. Buddha transcends both. So when Subhuti was still clinging to appearances a little bit, the Buddha gives him a nudge to say, wait. It's not just about non-appearance. It is also about non-appearance. Or in other words, it's not just about emptiness. It is also about the emptiness of emptiness, which, as I've been explaining from the beginning of this sutra, that's really the clench point here, on especially the special feature actually of the Diamond Sutra. It is always going from emptiness to emptiness of emptiness, and to try to really go beyond these 2 points. So now, in this chapter 15, so the Buddha again brings up the example of generosity. So, giving many bodies. So there's this example of, this huge amount of giving of bodies. So, of course, the giving of bodies is something that in the Indian tradition is quite common, because there is old tradition of asceticism and sacrifice and all that. So this is an example that would have been relevant, a relevant example in the time of the Buddha and that kind of cultural scene. Even the Buddha himself did it, right? So even the Buddha himself started by following ascetic path. But then, of course, he realized and thought, no, that was too extreme. That was too extreme. So there's the teaching in this. So you have to understand that everything that is taught in these sutras is not random. Is not like, just an example for the sake of an example. There's always a point. So one of the points being made here is this: is to find again the middle way. Yes, to give is good. To give is good. To practice generosity, yes, it's good. It's good. But even better is to understand the meaning of this sutra. But attention, we have to be careful here. The Buddha is not saying that it's either or, because sometimes some people can make this mistake. I remember once listening to a teaching on this sutra from a Zen teacher. It was very funny because in 2 or 3 places where these kind of examples were given, and this is authentic teacher, not just really good Zen master. And every time these kind of examples, he would say, yes, understanding the prajna, understanding the wisdom, this is superior merit. This is the real merit. Real merit. But don't forget to leave gift in the monastery box. But don't forget to leave gift in the monastery box. That's also good merit. Every time he would say like this. And he was not saying this just as a joke or as a this sutra is the most important, but please also give donation to monastery, okay? Don't neglect that. That was not really the point he was making. The point he was making is we can't fall into extremes. Extremes, remember, prajnaparamita, we go beyond all extremes. If we have the idea that only this, then we are excluding something else. See, the moment the mind says only this, then it's excluding other. There's always exclusion, you see. If we say, this is more important, this is not important, then we're excluding. If we're saying this is superior, then we're saying that is inferior. This is not prajnaparamita. Prajnaparamita is right down the middle. Right down the middle. It is the true inconceivable meaning of this beyond all kind of clinging, beyond all kind of fixations. And this is why the Buddha keeps giving these 2 examples. And that's why these sutras need explanation, because if we just read these sutras, we might misunderstand. We might think the Buddha is saying that all the paramitas are not necessary, that only this one is. But that's not what the Buddha is saying. The Buddha is saying, as I explained in the second session, I think, that even though the 5 paramitas cannot lead to liberation, they cannot. If a person only practices the 5 paramitas, they cannot attain liberation. Only prajnaparamita can lead to liberation. However, you cannot separate them. As we saw last time, the Buddha went into great detail in the previous chapters to explain how the 6 paramitas are actually inseparable, or they're actually really one. They are not 6. Maybe another way to explain this would be, there are no 6 paramitas. Forget about that. Forget about 6 paramitas. There is no such thing. Okay? There is no 6 paramitas. There's only 1 paramita. One paramita. One. If you understand, if you realize, if you truly understand the meaning of this 1 paramita, then those that we call 6, they manifest like this. And in fact, in some schools, they talk about 10 paramitas. I think it was one of the early Mahayana schools, the Buddha Gupta school in India. They actually spoke of 4 paramitas, I think. They excluded meditation, and they excluded patience, because they said that both patience and meditation are naturally included in the other 4. So, actually, throughout time, this list of paramitas, varies a little bit. Because in the end, there's just 1 paramita. There's just 1. So if we say that only prajnaparamita, it's not right. If we say that only the 5 paramitas is more important, like we see a lot, generosity and patience and compassion, that's like principle. No, that's not right. both extremes, both extremes, okay? So there's just one paramita, one paramita. That's what we need to understand. And that's what the Buddha keeps trying to make Subhuti see. If we only see emptiness, then this is not right. We need to understand that emptiness is also empty. A Buddha has, or a Buddha mind, as the perception of non-appearance and the perception of non-appearance at the same time. This is the great forbearance of the Buddha, the great patience of the Buddha, which totally accepts the illusory nature of all phenomena, but at the same time understands, sees, recognizes that the illusory nature of all phenomena, that very illusory nature itself, that is the way things are. That is the nature. And so it does not neglect the illusory nature, and because it does not neglect the illusory nature, it benefits sentient beings. So the emptiness itself becomes the means of liberation. And this is what now we are going to see in the next few chapters. That's what the Buddha is now heading to. How this realization benefits sentient beings. So the Buddha again is pulling us into the middle way, pulling us from extremes. So balancing now his previous teaching on patience. So because before he was teaching about patience, the real meaning of patience that is beyond patience, if you remember. If there is someone to be patient, that is not patience. If I'm saying, I have to be patient, I'm trying to be patient, then you're not patient, because then there's someone there that is trying to be patient. That's not yet the paramita of patience. So that's what the Buddha was talking before. So here the Buddha is balancing that again and saying, yes, okay, to practice generosity is great and you should do it. However, don't forget that without the prajnaparamita, you cannot attain liberation. So it is through the prajnaparamita that the other paramitas actually become real sources of virtue, authentic sources of wholesome virtue, like this. So the Buddha says here, but if someone were to hear this sutra and believe it without reservation, his blessings would surpass the blessings of the former person. How much greater the blessings would be if one could write, accept, uphold, read, and recite and explain this sutra for others. To sum it up, the merit and virtue of this sutra is inconceivable, incalculable, and boundless. Why? Because this sutra itself is prajna. This sutra itself is pure wisdom. This sutra itself, this is the Buddha, not different. So if you can see through this sutra, if you can see the middle point, if you can really see that inconceivable, clear, inconceivable middle point that this sutra is always presenting, that is prajna. That is prajna itself. It is not the word. There is no philosophy being taught in this sutra. This sutra does not grow into great elaborations for the conceptual mind. The conceptual mind likes to sometimes to think a lot, have a lot of ideas, a lot of theories, a lot of concepts about things. But the Diamond Sutra doesn't give much space for that. It is just always right here. What's this? Right here. Just here. Just here. No going there, no going there, no up, no down, no good, no bad, no idea about this or idea about that. Just here. Always just here. Since the beginning, since the first chapter, as if you remember. In fact, the first chapter was just that, was just doesness itself. So, the sutra continues. The thus come one spoke it for those intent on the great vehicle, for those intent on the foremost vehicle. So this means that basically this teaching, the teachings on this sutra, they can only really be received or understood by those who have really truly have this great aspiration, this great vow, this vast mind that can really grasp, accept this view beyond extremes. Which means never to neglect other beings. Because if otherwise we fall into the cessation, and as the Buddha explained in the previous chapters, what is that? When the Buddha spoke about the Arhat and he asked Subhuti, does the Arhat attain the Dharma of the Arhat? No. Subhuti says, no. There is no such state to be attained. There is no state of Arhat to be attained. And in the same way, there is no state of enlightenment to be attained. There is no such thing, actually. And that's why the Buddha does not neglect sentient beings, because in the end discovered that there is no enlightenment, doesn't exist. Enlightenment is not a dharma, means enlightenment is not a phenomena. Enlightenment is not a goal. Enlightenment is not something that can be attained. So, and that's why it goes beyond extremes. So, because it is not attached to perceiving, it is not attached to appearances, but it is not attached to the existence of beings. So it can help. It just reminds me now of a very nice story from Shogyen Trungpa and Jamgon Kongtrul. Really perfect, actually, here. In the collected works of Shogyen Trungpa, this very nice story. In the collected works of Shogyen Trungpa, he recalls an encounter he had with his root teacher, Jamgon Kongtrul. He recounts the first time he met Jamgon Kongtrul. He was a young boy. And Jamgon Kongtrul was coming to visit the monastery where he was studying, living, under the guidance of Khenpo Gangshar at the time. And he recalls this episode where Jamgon Kongtrul calls him to come to his private chambers. And he goes, he was young. I don't know how old he was, but he was a young boy. And he says, and we spoke for a little bit, and he was always laughing and very joyful. We just sit. Let's meditate together. And it's like he was very happy, great, because he always heard these stories about the great Kongtrul, the great Jamgon Kongtrul, and now I can meditate with him. So they sat. He said, just sit there. And they sat together for a moment. He said it was not very long. We just sat for a while. He didn't give me any instructions. He just told me, just sit. Just sit here. Let's just sit silently. And they sat together for a moment. And then after a while, he laughed. Very good, very good. And Shogyen Trungpa remembers that, but I didn't understand what was very good. I just sat there. I didn't experience anything. I was just there. But he was very excited. Yes, that was very good, very good. Come back tomorrow again. Okay. He leaves. The next day, he comes back again. And again, they talk a little bit. Okay, let's meditate again. Sit. And they sat. And Shogyen Trungpa remembers that, he recalls that there was nothing special happening. I just remembered when I sat there with him, my mind was very clear. Everything was very fresh. I could smell the incense, like very, very clear, very fresh. The light coming through the window. Everything was very present. I felt very, very clear. But that was it. I didn't give it particular importance. And we sat for a while. And then Kongtrul asks Shogyen Trungpa, so what is your experience? And Trungpa says, nothing. I experienced nothing. He says, great, that's it. And Shogyen Trungpa, what do you mean that's it? What about enlightenment? And Kongtrul tells him, there is no enlightenment. Forget about it. There is no enlightenment. And Trungpa was like, what do you mean? If there's no enlightenment, if this is it, then why do I have to study all these books, study all this philosophy, do all these practices, do all these things? And he says that at that time, the face of Kongtrul became very sad. He became very sad. And then he looked at Trungpa. Okay, you don't understand still. Go back, continue your study, continue your practice, your training. Next year we talk again. Like this, next year. It's the same point. No extremes. All these ideas, somebody attained Arhat level, someone attained Buddhahood. What's that? Where is it? Where is it? Where is that to be found? Which color does it have? Is Is that a house somewhere? Is that a place somewhere? You know, some people say it's a state of mind. Well, if it's a state of mind, it's transitory, it's temporary, it's a consciousness state. So the truth is there is no such phenomena. There is no such phenomena to be attained, which as the Buddha explained in the previous chapters. So the true discovery of that is really going beyond extremes. The true discovery of that is wisdom, not intellectual idea, the actual experience, the actual here. The Buddha mind here. The real experience of what that is, without thought, without concept. But as the Buddha says here, and as Control said to Trungpa, but you cannot neglect appearance. You cannot neglect appearance, or else you fall into emptiness state. So the Buddha keeps always pulling us in between these two sides. So that's why, even though we can understand that sentient beings are illusory, the Bodhisattva makes the great vow to liberate all sentient beings. But don't get me wrong here, and don't misunderstand the Buddha. This is not an empty vow. This is not, in the sense of, this is not a meaningless vow. This is not a pointless thing. This is not just words. We say, sentient beings are not truly existence, but I vow to free them all. As it were just some kind of trick or some kind of meaningless kind of trick of the mind. No, that's not it at all, actually. All beings are empty of self-nature. A Buddha perceives no beings. A Buddha perceives no self. A Buddha perceives no others. A Buddha perceives no world. And yet, through that, he perceives the true nature, and that itself becomes the liberation for all sentient beings. So, the sutra continues. The Thus Come One knows and sees all people who can accept, uphold, read, recite, and extensively explain this sutra for others. Such people perfect immeasurable, incalculable, boundless, and inconceivable merit and virtue, and sustain the Thus Come One's Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. So this means basically that, anyone who really truly accepts, upholds means to really understand, to really try their best to realize, not just here, because idea is useless. This is quite useless. No, to direct seeing, direct realizing, to really touch with wisdom the real meaning of this, to really uphold, read, recite, and extensively explain this. Such people perfect immeasurable, incalculable, boundless merit and sustain the Thus Come One's Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. What means to sustain? This is a very important word. This word is not random here. They sustain the doesness, the Thus Come One. So as I explained before, Thus Come One means that when the Dharmakaya manifests for the benefit of beings, as the Buddha, as the Tathagata, as in our Nirmanakaya form. So when suchness manifests to share this, to benefit beings. So sustain here means to carry on, which means that if the wisdom of this sutra, or the prajnaparamita, if this wisdom of the prajnaparamita is present, and when I mean present, I don't mean just the book. I mean in the heart, in realization, in understanding, in experience. If this is present, then the Thus Come One, the Tathagata, the enlightenment, the awakened state of the Tathagata is present, is carried through in this world. It does not die. The moment that the prajnaparamita dies, the Buddha Dharma dies with it. You must understand there is no Buddha Dharma without the prajnaparamita. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So that's what the meaning is here. To sustain is to carry on, to give continuation to carry that forward. So, I have a small quote here that I find important that is useful in this context, because regarding this point, Bodhidharma has said like this: Buddhas of the past and the future only talk about this mind. Buddhas of the past and future only talk about this mind. The mind is the Buddha, and the Buddha is the mind. Beyond this mind there is no Buddha, and beyond the Buddha there is no mind. Okay, so this is very important to understand. Buddhas of the past and future only talk about this mind. The mind is the Buddha, and the Buddha is the mind. Beyond the mind there is no Buddha, and beyond the Buddha there is no mind. We must really understand this. In this sutra we keep coming back and again and again and again. Buddha is not something we attain. Buddha is not something outside. Buddha is not something somewhere else. It is this mind. It is this mind. When it's truly recognized, the profound wisdom of this nature, that is Buddha. So the sutra continues. Why, Subhuti? The one who delights in lesser dharmas is attached to a view of a self, a view of others, a view of living beings, and a view of a life. One who delights in lesser dharmas is attached to a view of a self, a view of others, a view of living beings, and a view of a life. What does that mean? That means that if a person really believes that samsara and reality, if you believe that all these really exists, basically, then you cannot be free from it, because you believe it's true. In very simplistic terms, if someone really believes that all this, exists, that samsara is real, and that the world is real, and that beings are real, it's very difficult, to be free. On the other hand, if someone believes that nirvana really exists, that enlightenment really exists, that enlightenment is something I can really attain, then that's another boundary. You see, that's another limit. Now I'm looking at that limit now. So I'm blocked there. So if I'm blocked by the belief in enlightenment, if I'm blocked by the belief in nirvana, then I cannot understand real prajna. The real prajnaparamita it's veiled. I cannot see it. That's the meaning here. So this person, the sutra continues, this person cannot hear, accept, uphold, read or recite this sutra or explain it for others. Subhuti, the gods, humans and asuras of the world should make offerings wherever this sutra is found. Know that this place is a stupa. All beings should pay respect, worship, circumambulate and decorate it with incense and flowers. So the Buddha here is making a great... It's like this sutra... But again, this sutra is not referring to the words. It's referring to the understanding, to the realization. That's what it really means, obviously. Because words are words, English words, Chinese words, Tibetan words, Sanskrit words, Japanese words, whatever, It's scribbles in a paper. It's the wisdom that is present. That's the real sutra. If that's present, that's holy. That is holy. That is sacred. It is like a sacred place. Automatically, it's sacred. So the Buddha basically is saying here that if someone really believes in the existence of the world, if someone really believes in the existence of self and others and samsara, then they can't accept this sutra. Not really. They can't really accept this sutra. Maybe they can kind of intellectually, yeah, but it doesn't go. It doesn't really go. On the other hand, if someone is really clinging to emptiness, if someone is really clinging to, I want to be free of samsara, as I said last time, there are many Mahayana people that are truly they are Hinayana, because what they want is nirvana. Many people call themselves Mahayanists, but their true motivation is, I don't want samsara. I don't want samsara. I'm afraid of samsara. I don't like samsara. I want the happiness of enlightenment. Most people, this is their attitude in truth. This is Hinayana mind, as I said last time. Mahayana mind is not like this. Because we understand there is no samsara. The same way that there is no nirvana, there is no samsara. Where is samsara? What's that? What's samsara? All depends on this mind. All depends on this mind. This mind alone dictates what it is that is being perceived, and if that perception is rooted in ignorance, or if that perception is rooted in wisdom, that alone dictates what is experienced. There is no samsara, there is no nirvana. Forget about it. You have to realize this mind. All right, chapter 16. Chapter 16. Karmic obstructions can be purified is the title of this chapter. Moreover, Subhuti, if a good man or a good woman who accepts, upholds, reads, or recites this sutra is ridiculed, that is because that person has karmic offenses from past lives which destine him for evil paths. But as a result of the ridicule he receives from others in his present life, his previous karmic offenses are destroyed and he will attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. So now the Buddha here is making a link again to the previous chapter, where he taught about forbearance, about patience. There's really two important themes in this chapter that are actually quite important, that I will go to in a moment, because we have to understand. So the first thing here, so the Buddha all of a sudden now talks about karmic offenses. So we have not really talked about this so far in this sutra. So the Buddha is giving an example, basically. Like if there would be a person who would teach this sutra or talk about this sutra or something like this, and for that reason others would make fun of them. They would ridicule, they would accuse, they would say this is false, this is wrong, or you're crazy, or whatever. I'm sure this happened a lot, in India at some point in time. So what the Buddha is saying is that such thing would be because of past seeds. But is the Buddha really talking about, is the Buddha really saying that is really intention here? It's not. We will see that in a moment. Because the Buddha says here that, so as a result of the ridicule that he receives from others in his present life, his previous karmic offenses are destroyed and he will attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. So what does this really mean in the context of this sutra? This means that whatever happens, if the Bodhisattva immediately perceives that from the point of view of this sutra, from the point of view of wisdom, then whatever happens is perceived as empty nature, empty appearance, illusory appearance. So in the context of this example, if someone would to ridicule, someone, like the Buddha says here, someone is teaching the sutra and someone makes fun of that person. So the Buddha says, okay, so they're being made fun of because of their past karma. So because of their past evil karma, now they're suffering this ridicule. However, because of that ridicule, automatically they attain Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. So the Buddha is doing something quite radical here, actually. What the Buddha is really trying to say here is that what we ordinarily, in a relative sense, would perceive as cause and effect, karmic formation, karmic result, and like the ripening and purification of karma, and all that is perceived from the point of view of the karmic vision, of the relative vision. What the Buddha is saying here is that in reality, if we have this view, karma and wisdom are the same. Manifestation and wisdom are same. So at the moment the manifestation occurs, its empty nature is realized and the karma is automatically purified. It's instantaneous purification of karma, instantaneous Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. Some schools have used this kind of argument to kind of base their view of instant enlightenment, for example. But in reality, that's what the Buddha is saying here. If the view is realized right there, the moment the appearance is, then that which from the point of view of relative sense is perceived as a karmic ripening, when it's realized what it is, it's itself, it's enlightenment, right there. This is a quite important statement, actually. So, the Buddha now says, Subhuti, I recall that in the past, for immeasurable Sankhya Kalpas, prior to Dipankara Buddha, I encountered 84 trillion Nayutas of Buddhas. So this is like measurement, ancient measurement units, a lot. Okay, Googleplex of Buddhas. I made offerings to and served them all without exception. If there are others in this final period who can accept, uphold, read, or recite this sutra, the merit and virtue they attain is 100 times more, 1,000 times more, 10,000 times more, or 1,000,000 times more than the merit and virtue I gained from making offerings to all those Buddhas. It is so great that it exceeds all calculations and comparisons. Subhuti, if I were to explain in detail the merit and virtue of a good man or a good woman who in the final period accepts, upholds, reads, or recites this sutra, then those who hear might go insane or disbelieve. Subhuti, you should know that the principles in this sutra are inconceivable, so too are the rewards it generates. So, the main point that the Buddha is trying to make with this long, highly inflated speech is very simple, actually. Very simple. A single moment of wisdom, clears away all karma. All karma. That's really the point that the Buddha is trying to make here. That of all the Buddhas that he has served, all the Buddhas that he has been with, all the Buddhas that he has studied under, that if in this final period there's someone who can really uphold and understand this sutra, that alone is more merit, more reward than all of that. So when we put this chapter all together into one piece, basically what the Buddha is saying here is that even though from a relative point of view, from the point of view of karmic vision, we speak about causality, and we speak about past life, present life, future life. Past karma produces future results. And from the point of view of a karmic vision, of a sentient being, that all appears to be true. And karma is infallible. We cannot never reject that from the relative point of view. Never. However, what the Buddha is saying here is that one single moment of wisdom, true wisdom, not idea, one single moment of seeing this mind, there's no karma there. It's all gone. All gone. This moment, Buddha mind, It's all gone. All gone. So that's really the main point of this chapter. This is a very important chapter, which really explains why the Buddha keeps saying that the prajnaparamita is the supreme. It's the supreme. Chapter 17.
That
Yes?
explains. I never understood this. I think it's from Dogen. I think in the Shinjinmei when he says, who doesn't know the subtle principle will pay back every bit, or something like that. So that explains how I understand what he meant with that.
Yes. That is it. That is it. There is another story. A student, a monk finds an animal drowning. I forget now the name of the animal. A monk finds an animal drowning. I think it's a cat or something like this. Let's say a cat for the story. It doesn't matter. The monk finds a cat drowning and he rescues the cat. And he's very happy because he saved the life. And then he goes running to the master. Master, this happened. I saw and I saved the cat. I saved the cat. I saved the cat's life. And the master looks at him. Oh, you did? I did. I saved the cat's life. And the master says, then you are going to hell. Then you are going to hell. And the monk goes like, what? What do you mean I'm going to hell? I saved the cat's life. You are going to hell because you believe you exist, you believe the cat exists, you believe you saved it, so you have a lot of karma. You have no wisdom. Like this. So this is the same point. Same point. Please, it doesn't mean you don't save the cat's life. It doesn't mean you don't save the cat's life. You save the cat's life. The point that is trying to be made here is exactly what Dogen said. And is what the Buddha is trying to say here. Is that a single moment of wisdom, that's the essential point. If that's understood, the mind is liberated. If that's not understood, you can run around for lives and lives and lives and lives and lives and you're not going to go anywhere. That's the main point. Yeah? Is that clear? Sam? Right, chapter 17.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, chapter 17. So, chapter 17. Okay. So then Subhuti addressed the Buddha. So the title of chapter 17 is Ultimately There Is No Self. So then Subhuti addressed the Buddha, world-honored one. If a good man or a good woman resolves his mind on Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, on what should they rely? How should he subdue his mind? The Buddha told Subhuti, a good man or a good woman who resolves his mind on Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi should think thus. I should take all living beings across to cessation. Yet, when all living beings have been taken across to cessation, actually not one living being has been taken across to cessation. So this looks like a repetition of the second or third chapter. So now, basically, Subhuti asks the same question again that he had asked in the beginning, in the second chapter of the sutra, if you remember. So this is not just a mere repetition, okay? This is not just a mere repetition. So Subhuti is asking the same question now. Why? Subhuti asks the same question because now he has a different level of understanding, you see. When Subhuti first asked the question in the beginning, he only saw emptiness. He perceived the Buddha moving, walking, begging, washing his feet, sitting, eating, in perfect, transparent, clear wisdom mind, unmoving. Subhuti saw that, and he was amazed, if you remember. But then the Buddha, throughout this sutra, has been correcting him, has been guiding Subhuti beyond his limited arhat view of just emptiness, to understand what the true meaning of the Bodhisattva path is, of the prajnaparamita view. So now Subhuti already got step forward. So his view is much improved now. So with this new view, with this new gained understanding, Subhuti asks the same question again. This is very wise. You should learn. You should learn. There's many examples we can take from the sutras, not just the teachings. Students should also understand this. It's very good to repeat same question. People that understand this really kind of on the path, they approach their teachers and they ask a question. And they get an answer. The teacher will answer them according to their level. A teacher always answers a person according to their level. And they will hear and understand according to their level. And then it's okay that they work with that. And then they practice and they study and they meditate. And then they can come back again and ask exactly the same question. And see, maybe then the teacher gives a different answer. Or maybe the teacher gives the same answer, but then they hear something different. This is very important to really use this. The art of asking questions is one of the most important things to master as a practitioner on the path when relating to spiritual teachers. If you ask the right questions, it's very helpful. Any good teacher will never give more than what you ask. It will always just point to what you ask. If you ask, should I go right or left? Even if the teacher sees neither, you should stay put. The teacher will say, go right. Because you only asked about right or left. The teacher will never go beyond what you can see because it's not useful to you. That's why, you see this happening in sutras a lot. They repeat the questions. But you need to understand, this is not a mere repetition. When you really understand the flow of a sutra, because the sutra is all sutras, they're a flow, if you will. They're a teaching, they're a story, they're an evolution of a teaching. So when a question is asked a second time or a third time, it's never the same. It is the same question, but it's not. It's because something has changed. The understanding of the questioner has changed. So he asks the same question again to see if he gets the same answer or a different one, and to see how he understands it now the next time around. So it's very important to understand this. Sometimes if people make a questions that are not the right question, sometimes a person has a doubt. Sometimes a person has a doubt. But they don't really themselves know very well what their doubt is. They haven't resolved it. Because people are lazy many times. I said this before. I hope I don't offend anyone, but it doesn't really matter because it's true. People are very much lazy. So, they read a book, they read here and there, and some doubt appears in their mind. And, if they have a chance, they ask. Without actually thinking, reflecting, analyzing, contemplating, integrating, to really see what is really my doubt. Why do I have this doubt? If a person just go and just shoots the question, most likely, what happens, at least from my experience, when I receive questions, many times from people, I notice that the questions people ask me are not really their doubt. Not really. Because they have not really resolved their doubt yet. So the teacher always have to answer the question, like this, mostly that's what happens. But if you really take some time to really reflect upon the doubt, why do I have this doubt? What is my doubt? Why do I have this doubt? Then you can come up with a perfect question. And if you because then you really understand your doubt. believe me, one of the most precious things is to really understand your doubt. Because if you don't understand your doubt, how can you progress? People want to understand the wisdom, but many times they don't even understand their doubt. They don't know what they don't know. If you don't know what you don't know, if you don't even understand your doubt, how can you ask a question to answer your doubt? So things just go in circles, you see. It just keeps going in circles, in circles, in circles, in circles. You never break free. It's very difficult. The art of asking the right question is very important. And sometimes to, like I said, to repeat it. Sometimes, like Subhuti is doing here. Very good teaching this, actually. So then Subhuti asks again, same question as in the beginning. So the Buddha answers Subhuti. So far, if you remember the second chapter, so far the answer that the Buddha is giving looks the same. So in the first time around, the Buddha also told Subhuti, a good man or a good woman resolves his mind, He says, I should take all living beings across to cessation, yet when all living beings have been taken across to cessation, actually not one living being has been taken across to cessation. So up to here, the answer is same. But it will not be exactly the same, because now because Subhuti has understood something more, so the Buddha now is going to take us things one step further. And what's the point here? Because now Subhuti kind of understood. Subhuti now kind of understood this middle way. Subhuti kind of understood the principle or the emptiness of emptiness. Beyond perception and non-perception. And he became really excited about all this. Yeah, fantastic. My God, this is extreme. Like in chapter 14 or something, Subhuti was in tears. This is extraordinary teaching. A Zen master said once, if a practitioner falls in love with the Dharma, that is the greatest of madness. If a practitioner falls in love with the Dharma, that is the greatest madness. That is the greatest madness. And this is what the Buddha is now going to touch here. The Buddha is not going to let Subhuti cling to this Dharma. Because now Subhuti can cling to this Dharma. Now that he understood, maybe he can cling to this Dharma. So, the Buddha continues. Why? Subhuti, if a bodhisattva has an appearance of self, of others, living beings, or alive, he is not a bodhisattva. For what reason? So far is the same as the first answer. But now it's different. Now the next part is different. Subhuti. So for what reason? Subhuti. Actually, there is no such dharma as resolving one's mind on anuttara samyak sambodhi. Now this is the different part from the first answer. So now the Buddha is saying, but even to the idea of the path, even to the idea of following this bodhisattva path, even to the idea of this understanding, of this prajnaparamita, the bodhisattva idea, the bodhisattva jnana, the prajna, all of this, you should not also cling to that. You should not attach to that. So, because there is no such phenomena. So, as I explained from the beginning, the word dharma in this sutra is used in two ways interchangeably. Sometimes it can mean dharma as teaching, but most of the times it means dharma as phenomena. So, depending on the context, we must understand. So, Subhuti, actually, there is no such dharma as resolving one's mind on enlightenment. Meaning that this resolving, because the Buddha says, because the Buddha answers, in the first part of the answer, the Buddha answers, a good man or a good woman who resolves his mind on enlightenment, because that was Subhuti's question. How should a good man or a good woman resolve his mind into enlightenment? And the Buddha says, there is no, the resolving of the mind into enlightenment, that there is no such dharma. Let me put this into another words. The commitment, the decision, I am going to enter the bodhisattva path, this, there is no such phenomenon as that. That itself has no self-nature, which ultimately means do not cling to the path, do not cling to Dharma itself. As that Zen master said, the bodhisattva who clings to the bodhisattva who falls in love with the Dharma, that is the greatest of madness. So this is what the Buddha is trying to say here. Again, in this sutra, the Buddha gives no quarter. The Buddha doesn't let you land anywhere. If the mind tries to stay somewhere, if the mind tries to stick somewhere, there's no chance. The Buddha is going to cut all possibilities. It will leave you with no choice where to go. This is why the Diamond Sutra is so special. And in my opinion, it is really the crown jewel of the entire Prajnaparamita collection. Because if we truly study this sutra profoundly, the mind has really no place to go. There's no much philosophical elaborations, there's no much constructions of any kind, there's no much creating of any kind of ideas. It just leaves no place to go. It takes you right there, right here, right there, right there, to that point, beyond extremes. So, Subhuti, what do you think? When the Tathagata was with Dipankara Buddha, did he attain the Dharma of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi? No, world-honored one. I understand what the Buddha has said. When the Buddha was with Dipankara Buddha, he did not attain the Dharma of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. The Buddha said, so it is, Subhuti. The Tathagata did not actually attain the Dharma of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi. You see, if there is something to attain, then if there's something to attain, then that attainment is kind of a limit. If I say, I have to go to Paris. Well, I can't now because I'm in quarantine and the borders are closed. But let's say, for example, we lived in a free state and I could go. So, I'm gonna go to Paris. That's my attainment. So when I reach Paris, I reached Paris. That's my limit. Now I feel I've reached here. It becomes kind of a limit. It's something. It's something concrete. It's a phenomenon. So what the Buddha is trying to say here in two ways. So in the first way, he's saying that there's no path to set on. There's no path to enter. If you feel you have a path to enter, then that path is not the real path. The not entering is the real entering. The non-attainment is the real attainment. If the mind feels I've gotten it, then you don't have it. If the mind feels I understand, then you don't understand. If the mind feels I understood, then you didn't understand. If the mind feels I've realized, then you didn't realize. If the mind thinks I've attained realization, you haven't attained realization. If the mind feels I am going to enter the path, then you haven't entered the path. This is what the Buddha is saying here. Because attainment is an unattainment. Why is that? How can you get to what is already your nature? How can you go to where you, how can you go to where you are already? How can you reach what you are already? You are already Buddha. You quote. The natural condition is already Buddha. The natural state is already Buddha right now. Buddha is now. Your mind is Buddha now. So how can you attain that which is already this? You are already enlightened. Fundamentally, this is all this sutra is saying, actually, at this point. You are already enlightened. So what are you talking about? Path, entering path, attaining something. What are you talking about? Where do you want to go? Which path can take you to where you are already? So that's why the Buddha is saying here that when we truly understand the prajnaparamita, when we truly understand this wisdom, then we understand that not entering the path is entering the path. Non-attainment is attainment. Because non-attainment is what already is. Attainment is an idea. Something to attain is a concept. Something to attain is a phenomena. Something to attain is a limit, is a limitation. What is what is. There's nowhere to get there. There's no way to get to what is. What's the road to what is? Can you put a post, a sign, an arrow, what is that way, That's what the Buddha is saying here. That's why I say many times to you, when you sit to meditate, have no goal. No goal. You sit to meditate, no goal. No goal. Where are you going? What is? Just what is. Just this. Just this. Like Kontru said to Trungpa, just this. No goal. If you sit to meditate with a goal, with a conceptual vision, objective, with an objective goal in mind, then you're cut off. Your meditation is already cut off right there, because you're already limiting. You're projecting a goal where there's no goal, because there's no goal. It's this, but you need to discover what that means. See, this is why Kontru was sad when Trungpa said, then why do I need to study all this? Why do I need to do all this training? And then Kontru became sad, because that meant that Trungpa hadn't understood yet. Yes, true, this is it, but you need to get it. You need to truly get it. Truly get it. And that maybe it's not, always easy. So, Subhuti, if the Tathagata had actually attained the Dharma of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, then Dipankara Buddha would not have given me the prediction, you will in the future become a Buddha with the name Shakyamuni. So basically, if the Buddha had this idea, I have attained Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, then the Buddha Dipankara would have not given him the prediction, you will become the Buddha. Why? Because it meant that he had still the idea of a self. I have become a Buddha. And if there's this idea, I have become a Buddha, then that's not a Buddha. So that's what, very simply put. Since I did not actually attain the Dharma of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, then Dipankara Buddha gave me the prediction, saying these words, you will in the future become a Buddha with the name Shakyamuni. Why? Tathagata means all dharmas are thus. Remember I said, remember the first chapter? I said all this sutra is about thus. Thus appears everywhere. We must learn how to read thus in this sutra. And many chapters I've kind of skipped that because or else the explanations become way too long. But in some places it's really important to understand, to pick up when the word does appears, because it changes the way we read each line. So all this sutra is about does. Does come one, Tathagata means all dharmas are does. Does. Not this, not that, does. Nothing to say. There's nothing to say. Nothing to say, you know. A lot of talking. I'm here talking, blah, 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 blah. Just nonsense. Just nonsense. Every single word I speak about this sutra, I'm offending it. I'm committing offense on the sutra, actually. You know, you know, every single word I say about this sutra is offense on this sutra. Because the true meaning of this sutra is just does. Does. You cannot say this, you cannot say that, you cannot say any ideas the mind makes is not does. Does is does. Does. Someone might say the Tathagata attained Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, Subhuti, but actually the Buddha did not attain the Dharma of Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi, Subhuti. There is nothing true nor false in the Anuttara Samyak Sambodhi the Tathagata attains. This is very important. There is nothing true or false in the enlightenment of the Tathagata. A lot of times there's a lot of discussion about truth and false. This is true, this is false. But you see, truth and false is all relative. The moment you speak this is true, then it implies false. The moment you say this is false, implies there's a truth. And the moment you have truth and false, you have opinions, you have disputation. Awakening doesness, does, Tathagata, doesness. It is neither true nor false. True limitation, false limitation. True idea, false idea. Does. Neither true nor false. When the mind makes these things, this is true, this is false. If you recognize that and you drop, thatness, thisness, doesness. Therefore, the Tathagata says all dharmas. The Tathagata says that all dharmas are Buddha Dharma. Subhuti, what are spoken of as all dharmas are not all dharmas. Therefore, they are called all dharmas. Wow, this is really profound. So, the enlightenment of the Tathagata is neither true nor false. It has no such labels. It has no such extremes. It has no such limitations or concepts. Things are as they are. Not things, not non-things. That's why the Buddha now says, all dharmas are the Buddha Dharma. Huh? Up to now, he's been refusing all dharmas, no appearance, blah, blah, blah. No, all dharmas are the Buddha Dharma. All phenomena are the Buddha Dharma. Why? Why? Because what is spoken of as all dharmas are not dharmas. So, any dharmas, any phenomena, when it's seen the absence of self-nature, when it's seen that the phenomena has no self-nature, it becomes a non-appearance. And yet is not nothing. And yet is not nothing. And that seeing we call all dharmas. And that is the Buddha Dharma. Did you follow me now? Let me rephrase this. Let me repeat this. When it's seen the absence of self-nature of phenomena, in that seeing, in the seeing of the no self-nature of phenomena, there is also the seeing of the emptiness of that emptiness. Means that it's not nothingness. And in that, we call all dharmas. And that is the Buddha Dharma. That is prajnaparamita. That is the real meaning of no self. This is a very profound line. It is really, this is really dense. We really need to explain, to really look deep into this, to really understand the meaning. They are called all dharmas conventionally. Some people will explain like this. So if I would now be following like the commentaries from like, more like Kamalashila and like the more prasangika, the more kind of madhyamika style of commentary on this sutra, at this point here, I'll probably talk about it a little bit different. However, I don't want to do that. I want to keep this really practical. So, because the main point is really just this. When you perceive the absence of self-nature, that absence of self-nature is the real nature. But that's not a nothing. And when this is realized, that is Buddha Dharma. Okay? So that's the... And then we call it all dharmas. We call it all dharmas. So in this kind of other more philosophical approach, we could say that conventionally we call it all dharmas as a mere convention. Ultimately, there's no dharmas. Conventionally, we call it dharmas. This is like philosopher's language, and that's okay. But directly, more experientially, it's just this. In the seeing of the absence of self-nature, it's not nothing. And when that's seen, that's the real appearance. That's the real nature. And that's prajnaparamita. So, Subhuti, suppose there is a person with a big body. Subhuti said, World Ordered One, the Tathagata speaks of a big body as not being a big body, therefore is called a big body. So what means a big body here? Actually, I should have clarified that the first time. I didn't because it was not relevant. So big body here, the Buddha is referring to the body of merit. Body of merit. And in the later chapter, the Buddha is going to really go deep into the three bodies. The physical body, the body of merit, and the body of Dharma, which probably you know better as Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya. So the body of merit is the Sambhogakaya. That's what the Buddha is talking about here. The big body. Big body refers to the Sambhogakaya, to the body of merit. So Buddha said, the Tathagata speaks of a big body as not a big body, therefore is called a big body. So again, it's the same principle, because if we cling to the idea that this body, this body of merit of the Buddha, it is a dharma, it is a phenomenon, it's something that exists with characteristics, that is not a big body. That is not the body of merit. And when that's directly seen, that's the real merit. Again, we keep just repeating the same theme here because it's so important on different aspects. Subhuti, a bodhisattva is also like this. If he said, I should take across immeasurable living beings to cessation, then he could not be called a bodhisattva. Why? Subhuti, there is really no dharma called a bodhisattva. So there is no phenomena called a bodhisattva. There is no such thing. There is no such truly existing phenomena, a dharma. There is no such dharma called a bodhisattva. That doesn't exist. Therefore, the Buddha says that all dharmas are without a self. Others, living beings, or a life. Subhuti, if a bodhisattva said, I should adorn Buddha lands, so adorn Buddha lands here means that the activity of a bodhisattva to create or to transform pure lands, to create pure lands. So, if a bodhisattva said, I should adorn pure lands, he could not be called a bodhisattva. Why? It's obvious, because I am a bodhisattva, I am going to save all beings. This is delusion. I said that many times in other teachings, if you remember, this great delusion. I am a bodhisattva, I am going to save all living beings. No. Then you're not the bodhisattva. That's what the Buddha is saying here. why what the Tathagata speaks as adorning Buddha lands or creating pure lands is not adorning Buddha lands. Therefore, it is called adorning Buddha lands. So if a bodhisattva comprehends the Dharma of no self, the Tathagata calls him a true bodhisattva. By seeing all appearances as pure, devoid of self-nature, the bodhisattva understands their true nature. And by understanding their true nature, automatically the pure land manifests. A bodhisattva has no such idea. I am going to transform this into a pure land. If there is such idea, then it's not a bodhisattva. But by realizing the absence of self-nature, pure appearances manifest, and automatically pure land manifests. Then that's a true bodhisattva. That's what the Buddha is saying here.